And joining us now is the president of Maryland State Senate, Bill Ferguson. Thank you so much for joining us. So it's been a big week at the State House in Annapolis. You, along with the governor, signed the Relief Act of 2021 just this past week. Who is this newly signed law going to directly impact? But most importantly, how soon are they going to see the help?
Great questions. As soon as humanly possible is the first and foremost answer. Who will this package help? It is the hundreds and thousands of Marylanders who have been disproportionately impacted by this pandemic. That is Marylanders, its families, its small business owners. And so we really, we have not stopped working since March 2020 to deal with the multitude of challenges that have come about as a result of this pandemic. What we've seen is that it certainly has not hit all people, all businesses, or all communities in the same way. There have been disproportionate impacts. And so we really were focused on those who were most vulnerable. If you're a small business owner that relies on sales tax for revenue, and you make less than a certain amount of money, there are 3 months of sales tax remissions that you do not have to submit to the state. If you qualified for the earned income tax credit, you will receive a direct check in the next 2 weeks, $300 for an individual or $500 for a joint filer. If you're somebody that is struggling with your bills, if you're behind on your payments for your utility payments, we have $84 million that will wipe away bills for roughly 40% of Marylanders who are falling behind. So this was a very, very robust package of over $1 billion of support, truly for those who are most vulnerable and who have been impacted the most by this crisis.
And I understand that there's been a point of contention to add tax-paying non-citizens to this relief. Is there going to be anything to help the low-income immigrant families who pay taxes, but they're not eligible for these relief funds?
So in the relief package that we have, if somebody is relying on food banks, there's money supporting food banks. If they're relying on a nonprofit organization to help with housing concerns or eviction concerns, there's $20 million for nonprofits. If they run a business and have suffered because of the pandemic, there are relief in the sales tax provisions. So there are a number of avenues that all Marylanders, no matter their status, would be able to access to help them to survive. There was a question near the end around the direct payments that was not incorporated in the Relief Act that was signed into law. On the Senate floor right now, we are working to close a loophole that treats different taxpayers differently. This gets very complicated very quickly because of the interaction of Maryland taxes and federal taxes. And so we have a debate happening on the Senate floor as we speak, where the bill would treat all Maryland taxpayers the same, regardless of status, whether they're here on a work visa or some other means. And so this is something that we think is a matter of basic fairness. But we also know there's been a disproportionate impact to our neighbors who have worked in the restaurant industry or work in the agricultural industry. That are here and part of our community who have really suffered and have not had access to other support programs. So while there was no targeted relief, we are now debating for the years ahead, the next 3 years, that there be an equal treatment provision when it comes to all Maryland taxpayers.
So great to know. So when it comes to any form of any relief for Americans, we see nothing but gridlock at the Capitol in D.C., but that's not the case in Maryland. What did you and your colleagues do on both sides of the aisle to compromise and reach an agreement on this Relief Act?
Well, this is why I just so deeply love state politics over federal politics. Maryland is a place where, while we have different political parties, we generally try to be very focused on solutions and problem solving. And of course, there are different ideas and different ideologies about issues, but for the most part, we come to Annapolis every year for session to try and solve problems. And so conversations happened with the governor's office, late 2020, and there was a unified recognition that we had to act quickly and urgently to get support to Marylanders who are in need. The good news of this is that we do have vaccine candidates that are being put in arms right this very second. That is truly a miracle. The challenge is we have to help Marylanders hold on so that we can get to the point where we can really start to rebuild. And so there was a general consensus that we had to get supports to those who needed it most so that we could get to that point when vaccines are more available and we are starting to reopen. That was always the key. And so, we come to Annapolis to do the work of the people, and we work for Maryland, not for a political party. We work for Marylanders.
So, let's talk about the vaccine rollout in Maryland. There's a lot to break down here. You're on Maryland's Vaccine Oversight Committee, and a lot of people are frustrated. They're saying it's hard to find one. Walk us through what's been happening with vaccine distribution since they were first administered in Maryland to where we're at right now.
So I think it is really important to start and reiterate again that it is truly almost a miracle. This is the first time in human history that we have multiple vaccine candidates out and being distributed and administered in the same year that the pandemic happened. You look in the thousands of years of human history, this never happened. And the reason that that's the case is because scientists came together, identified a problem, and then just worked collaboratively to solve it. That is the starting point. We always knew that there would be a logistics challenge. We are in the midst of it right now. At the end of the day, the governor and the Secretary of Health are where the buck stops in the administration program. The General Assembly is here to support on a policy basis to get these vaccines into arms. There is nothing more important in all of state government than getting these vaccines out to Marylanders who need them. Of course, there are places where I probably would have made some different decisions. I would have probably liked to have seen a more centralized process as opposed to a very diffuse and decentralized process, but reasonable minds can certainly disagree on which was better. I do think there are areas for improvement, namely when it comes to ensuring that technology does not become a barrier to vaccine access. And I really think immediately of our seniors, as those who are over the age of 65, who may not be fluent with a computer, asking them to go onto multiple websites to sign up to try and find a location for a vaccine, it's just a bad strategy. And what I have been pushing, what we in the General Assembly have been pushing, is the administration to put forward a call center so that Marylanders who are eligible can pick up the phone and have a case manager help them know where they can get a vaccine, when they can get it, and get confirmation that everything has been done so that they can get that vaccine in their arm.
And after the break, we asked Maryland Senate President Bill Ferguson on why the Maryland Senate voted to override Governor Hogan's veto on gun restrictions and what's next on the agenda at the General Assembly. Stay with us.